Good morning. I'm Nathaniel Reveal, part of the board of directors here at GNUUC. We want to welcome you all to this Vision of Ministry Sunday, the annual worship where we launch into a new church year looking for new ways to transform lives. Today, we'll learn a bit about the nuts and bolts, how GNUUC organizes itself. We'll talk a bit about what our mission might mean in this time of COVID, and we'll end with an invitation to put that mission into action. In addition to several members of the board taking part this morning throughout the service, Karen Spencer-Smith was an invaluable partner with the slides and script today. I'll lead the board reflection later on. Chris Gemignani is our spectacular Zoom host, backed up by a host of other people, including Jesse Spencer-Smith. And Sandy is at GNUUC providing a beautiful chalice display for us to enjoy. Let us gather together. Our chalice lighting today is written by Reverend Scott Tyler using words of John Shear. It'll be read by board member Carol Looney as Sandy Blands lights the chalice.
May this flame cast its light toward the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we are going, but a place we are creating. The path of new possibilities will not be found, but made. A new world is waiting to be built.
Our covenant is the thing that binds us together. No matter what is going on around us, these words hold us. Please join me in reading the covenant if you feel the same as I. We covenant together to make a welcoming community, to walk together in the way of truth and love, to seek the life of the Spirit as it is known in each person, to support each other in thought, word, and deed as we work to build a better world. Continuing in September's theme of embracing possibility, this service gives us a chance to think about the ways we can reconnect with each other, reconnect with the land of our congregation, and reconnect with the community around us. In this morning's Time for All Sages, it'll help us remember that things are not at first what they may seem, and only by actually living our lives one day at a time do we come to understand their larger meanings.
Let me tell you about Farmer Chin. Farmer Chin had a pretty typical life. He had his acres and his harvest to tend to. He had his animals and his family to help with the tasks. He also had neighbors who would sometimes visit and bring dumplings and their opinions. One day, Farmer Chin's strongest, most beautiful horse ran away, and the neighbors came immediately to express their sorrow for Farmer Chin having lost one of his most valuable possessions. And they asked him if he wasn't just sad as he could be about that change of fortune. After all, losing value is a horrible thing to experience. Farmer Chin's response was, maybe yes, maybe no. The following day, that horse returned with 10 other wild horses, equally beautiful, equally strong, adding to Farmer Chin's stables. And the neighbors came running, celebrating, saying how wonderful it was that he now had all of these additional horses? Farmer Chen's response was, maybe yes, maybe no. The next day, his oldest child, who was to be the heir to the farm, the child who showed the most interest in inheriting this land and this responsibility, was taming the horses, or trying to, and their leg was broken in the process. And the neighbors came running once again to lament this change of fortune, saying how disappointed Farmer Chen must be that his child would now grow up, possibly with a limp for the rest of their lives. Isn't that just a sorrowful, sad state of affairs? Farmer Chen said, maybe yes, maybe no. A week later, an announcement went throughout the kingdom that war was at hand, and that the young, strong, able-bodied children would be conscripted into the army and into the service of the kingdom. But Farmer Chen's child wasn't able to go because their leg had just been broken. And the neighbors came running with the dumplings and the opinions, saying how wonderful it was. What a relief it must be to Farmer Chen that his child would not have to go and fight in the war. And Farmer Chen responded, I bet you can guess. Maybe yes, maybe no. This story reminds us that we always have the choice to remain open, to embrace all the possibilities in a situation when we might be tempted to immediately assume that something is a tragedy or even a great boon, that we might take a second, reevaluate the situation, and see how it unfolds. And you know, that story inspired me to write this song. The journey isn't over. The race is far from run. The story isn't written. The game's just begun. Each day is a new day. Every day is a new day. Who knows what comes next? If misery befalls you, let the misery take hold. When tragedy calls you, you can let the thing unfold. Each day is a new day, every day is a new day. Who knows what comes next? This might be the best day you've ever had. The truth is, no day is really good or bad. Might be the path that you've chosen, might be the last one you would. Things might be getting so crazy, you would laugh if you could. Slide on through it with grace, open your heart and embrace whatever comes next. Slide into it with grace, open your heart and embrace whatever comes next. Whatever comes next.
What a great reminder that things are not always as they seem, and that by living life with openness and embracing the possibilities of the future, we too can discover wonderful things. This month's Share the Plate partner is the Nashville AIDS Walk, put on by the AIDS activist organization Nashville Cares. The walk itself will be a virtual event on October 2nd. If you'd like to join our team to walk, contact either Doug or Nancy. So far, our congregation has raised nearly $1,500, which puts us 5th for all the team fundraising efforts in Nashville. I think we've heard this before, but we are indeed a small but mighty congregation. Take a look in the chat for the link to the current information about the AIDS Walk. If you'd like to support the Nashville Cares mission to end HIV/AIDS in Middle Tennessee, donate now through the methods on your screen.
This meditation, it will be helpful to have a light with you. Any kind of a light will do. If you have a lamp or a candle, even your cell phone. I just found out that if I hit my flashlight button, that my light comes on without me even lighting it. This may take a minute to get ready, but don't worry. As you find and share your personal light, we will observe 1.5 minutes of silence. If 10 lamps are in one place, each differs in form from another. Yet you can't distinguish whose radiance is whose when you focus on the light. In the field of spirit, there is no division. No individuals exist. Sweet is the oneness of the friend with his friends. Catch hold of the spirit. Help this headstrong self disintegrate, that beneath it you may discover unity like a buried treasure.
Thanks, Karen. Dear friends, we are here again. Another turning of the year, another start to another church year in a long history of church years, and setting the groundwork for what are surely more church years to come. Chris and I will work together to kind of navigate the slide stack here. And so from time to time, you'll hear me ask for slides. Like now, hey, Chris, let's get the next slide. The congregation has been working with the UUA and the Southern Region leadership for quite some time now, years now, as we've navigated ins and outs and ups and downs. And one of the things we keep hearing is how good we are at being a high functioning, welcoming, small congregation. Right? And so I've tried to kind of capture that with this idea, right? That we are experts in sustainable and inclusive pastoral sized community. Right? Pastoral sized is just kind of a technical churchy term for we have a minister. Not all congregations in the Unitarian Universalist tradition have ministers, want them. But that's what it means for us. All right, let's look at the next slide. Our mission, which is our job to advance, right, is to trust the transforming power of love, right? The idea that love transforms us. We're to embody sanctuary, right? To create a literal place of sanctuary, right? Both with ourselves and with the land that we have, right? And to champion justice, right? To make the world a little better for everyone. And every year, we have to spend some time thinking, what does that mission mean now, right? How has the changing world around us pointed out the important parts of the mission in the moment, right? Let's think of the next slide, Chris. Yeah. So what does that mission look like now, right? And how do we answer that question? Right? The short version of how we answer that question is through a process that Dan Hotchkiss calls an annual vision of ministry. Right? So let's look at the next slide. Great. So Dan Hotchkiss is this church consultant who wrote a handy book called Governance and Ministry. And the title kind of implies how things work, right? That there's governance that kind of sets the ground rules, and then there's ministry that gets things done. And both of those processes are accountable to the mission of the organization. And that's how you know that you're on the right track. You ask yourself, all right, how does this move the mission forward? How does this do the things that we say we want to do? Right? And so his suggestion is that every year you get together and you ask the question, in what new and different ways will we transform lives this year? So a couple of services ago, if we'll go to the next slide, we had this lovely interactive word cloud. And I'd never seen one of these built by such a large group of people. And so what fascinated me was how it grew and how an idea would pop up and other people would say, wait, no, that idea, right? That's what I want. And then that thing would grow and grow and grow. And so we captured that image so we could keep that around while we were thinking, in what new and different ways will we transform lives this year? And so when the board met for its inaugural retreat, back in August, and Reverend Gouch was with us, it was a lot of fun. But we asked the question, in what new and different ways will we transform lives this year? Right? And we looked at that word cloud, and we thought about the mission, and we thought about what does the mission mean in this time of COVID? Right? And here's our best answer. Let's go to the next slide, Chris. That our job this year is to nurture our connections to each other, right? Each person to person, between us and the place, the land, that we're on, and the connections between us and the community that surrounds us immediately, right? The kids that come over and play in the playground that we never imagined, right? Didn't even know about these kids, that they were even there on the other side of the literal and metaphorical fence, right? But also, community might mean the larger network of Unitarian Universalist congregations around us, right? So that was the sense of what was necessary this year, right? Is to kind of reconnect with each other and figure out how to be together in community again. Let's go to the next slide, Chris. And so that led to this kind of reflection, which reads, we are meeting each other again for the first time. So keep it simple, keep it small, give people space, be kind to each other. Do the work that works for you. Beautify what you can. Acknowledge the places you hurt. And for goodness sakes, enjoy beautiful out of doors. Next slide, Chris. So as we start thinking about this, a kind of corollary, a second thought to that earlier idea about us being experts at sustainable small communities, right? One of the things that as we kind of navigate, how do you lead a small congregation and how do you fit it into the larger UUA and kind of look around and see what other folks are doing and what they're not doing, you realize that small congregations play an indispensable role in the denomination, right? The best way we could think to phrase it was that we are the gardens for new ideas in Unitarian Universalism, right? Because we're small enough and we're resilient enough that we can take the risks and try new things, find new ways of changing people's lives that larger, more structured, more embedded, right? Maybe more fragile organizations cannot take, right? It's too big of a risk, right? The proverbial house of cards, right? So that really kind of calls us to action. That if we, the small and the resilient, can't try something new, well, then no one has a chance to see if it's going to work, right? Because we are the pilot project people, you know. Let's take a look at the next slide, Chris. All right, nuts and bolts. How does this actually happen, right? Okay, so looping back to Dan Hotchkiss and this idea of governance and ministry, right? So the governance side is where the board sits. And we're the people that say, what are the rules, right? What are the ground rules for getting things done here, right? How do we all get on the same page, right? And so that's the board's job, right? It writes policy, it publishes general rules for getting things done, right? And then it sits back and it gets out of the way, right? And that's where the Shared Ministry Council comes in, right? So for questions about things that need doing, right, that's the Shared Ministry Council, right? So email them frequently with ideas and volunteerism, right? And offers of help, right? sharedministry@gnuuc.org, right? It's a long list of people. And how does it get made? It's the team leads. It's the people that have volunteered to do things, to organize, get people together, right? So that's the two wings of the hypothetical bird, right? The board is over there. The questions of what are the rules for doing things, right? And then on the other side, what are the things. What are we going to do? How do I find the people to be with? That's the shared ministry. All right, Chris, let's take a look at the next slide. So having set the stage here, I'm going to turn the mic over to a couple of wonderful board members who have volunteered some thoughts. First, we'll hear from Teresa Tarkington Kersey, and then we'll hear from Sandy Blands, and they'll have thoughts to share about this idea of nurturing our connections. Right. And
The rest of the board? Oops, am I here? Am I there? Where am I? Okay. Can you hear me now?
we got you.
Okay. All right. Well, if the last 18 months have taught us anything, it's that we should be considering the importance of maintaining our connections with people, social connections. And our congregation is small, but I think we're big when it comes to that. And I think we have a sort of a love for each other that makes us want to continue to keep those connections alive. So I'm going to speak for myself and a couple of things here. You know, as a member of the Women's Covenant Group here at GNUC, I think that we have gone a long way to keep our connections going and fresh. And you know, we have continued this 18 months to have our meetings twice a month. And there was even a period of time we decided to meet just casually on the off week and just check in with each other. And it's been a great source of comfort, I think, for a lot of us. You know, we're all kind of in our own little cocoons, and it's wonderful to check in with people, see how they're doing. And it's really nice when they check in with you also to see how you're doing. I also think that, and of course, Zoom has made that possible. And I know a lot of people make jokes about Zoom and everything, but I don't know how I would have gotten through this last 18 months without it, or we have. I guess maybe there would have been another platform. I don't know. I'm not a tech person, but I am so very thankful for Zoom. And it's also, again, enabled us to keep our services going every Sunday. And again, we're a congregation, I think, that really cares about each other. And I am so looking forward to when we can all be in the sanctuary together and hearing a wonderful message from our brand new minister, who's very cool, and or from one another. Sometimes, you know, we have a guest speaker, and we also have one of our own up there. So there's wonderful things, I think, that we can look forward to, because, as you know, this thing isn't over yet. And so we're still meeting via Zoom. And I hope that we'll continue to nurture our connections. You know, throughout the last few months, I've kind of felt like Charlie Brown. And, you know, we really thought we were coming together. We thought this thing was over with. We were all getting vaccinated, and the cases were going down. Then the variants came in, and that was the variant out from, you know, from in front of us. And we were just unable to kick that football one more time. So how have we kept those connections alive in other ways? I think that there's been a wonderful group of people who drop a meal off to someone they know is you know, maybe alone and doesn't have anyone there to share a meal with. Plus, sometimes, you know, you just don't feel like cooking, especially when you're just the only person there. Sharing a meal, dropping off maybe library books for somebody, dropping off something to read, puzzles for someone to keep themselves busy. There's a lot of ways that we can keep connected to one another. And I know there are a number of folks in the congregation who have been doing that. And I'm for that. Um, our coffee times are a wonderful time for us when we were getting together. Coffee and lunch was just a great way for us to reconnect with each other, even from the last week. And it was wonderful because it wasn't always the same group sitting together. You got to sit near somebody different every week and check in with them and they with you. And that has been a great source of comfort. So with Zoom, we've been able to do that on a smaller scale. And I really am glad, because I love to scan the folks, that are on each service, and scan the faces and see everyone and sort of say my own hello to you. I miss you all terribly. When we get beyond this COVID thing, I think that we'll come back together with our brand new minister and again grow. I look forward to that first week, the first time we can give those hugs that we all miss so very much. I'm excited very much about the year ahead with our wonderful new minister and the rest of you whom I love and miss. So, hey, here's to the future. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Teresa. That was lovely. I love your shirt, by the way. Oh, my word.
Thanks.
Sandy Blands, would you mind sharing a few thoughts with us about reconnecting?
Was that awful? I get nervous when you hit me like
I'll be
that.
glad to. Would speak of sharing. I've written a few things that have really meant a lot to me. Sharing has always been a big part of this group of Unitarian Universalists. We always share our time, our food, and of course our opinion. As of this congregation, you spent the past year and a half helping each other understand J take it through a difficult time. I knew the call on interview help if I needed it, and they would be willing to do what you could to share whatever needed. Even when we needed toilet paper, we knew that there would be a way. When we began this strange time, I think most of us instinctively felt it wouldn't be long before solutions would be found. In spite of all this, we get through it. We've been able to have a sharing committee that has been here for us. Yes, here we are through the study, and it's time to rebuild our community. The question is, will we simply return to our previous way, or should we build back better, as our president suggests? Sound familiar? I think we have the power to be kinder and to share this with each other to improve our lives. There are many people around who might not agree with their politics or decisions, but they deserve anything we can provide. Many individuals in this congregation have shared an amazing amount of time and knowledge to help us this time. I have had no idea how to set up a Zoom meeting, even using Zoom for these meetings and for the meetings in between. Has been invaluable to me to help keep my sanity. We received a call in a couple days or read something in our news asking for help or an opinion. Please share whatever your knowledge can. If someone wanted to do something and can't, I find somebody else who can. It's just the thought. We are still a community who know how to help each other. We can all share a positive attitude too. I read an article recently if you think of yourself as lucky, you'll treat a bad occurrence with an attitude that it could have been worse. If you hear my voice this year, it really could have been worse. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Wonderful. So that loops us back around to the ways in which we're going to nurture our connections to each other, to the place, and to the community. On the next slide. Thanks, Chris. You'll notice that the Shared Ministry Council has had its first meeting of many more to come. And there are already things in the works. Right? We've set up a couple of task forces to handle some very specific COVID-related things like policy and infrastructure for doing things differently. We've got a First Sunday Soul Matters theme service that's starting up now. In October and November, we'll be starting picnics for 5 or 9 with the minister. Chance to get to know Reverend Gouch in a comfortable, outdoor, happy setting. In the next slide, we've got even more things coming. We'll be doing on-site children's religious education outside in our spectacular garden, park, playground space. We'll have project days coming up in October and November. So look for signups for those. Those will be short, sweet, usually outdoorsy things where you can gather and do something that makes a difference, right? And as we get our indoor feet under us, we'll be doing things indoors as well. And there's possibilities that we could get the bell choir back together again. Because conveniently, I can be loud and also not breathe heavily while ringing a bell. It seems a uniquely COVID-friendly activity. So if the idea of getting together and being loud safely sounds like fun, then by all means, when you start to see information about the possibility of a rejuvenated bell choir, sign up. Right? I have no musical training whatsoever, and I do have trouble maintaining rhythm. But having worked with the bell choir at least once or twice in the past, Thina was a very kind and skilled teacher. So I felt successful nonetheless. If there are things that occur to you that you would like to see or that you would like to join in, right? Sorry, reading the slide deck a little bit. Go ahead and head on to the next slide, Chris. So we're looking at outdoor events and hybrid Zoom worship. And we'll send more information about that. So the idea is if there are things that you would like to do, things that you would like to see done, if there are things that you would like to help make happen, get in touch with Shared Ministry at gnuuc.org. It's a clearinghouse that will get you connected to the people and projects that make sense to you. When we talk about doing the work that works for you, that's what we mean, right? Take a look at what all is available and find the parts that make sense for you. And then do them, because you never know how that's going to turn out, right? All right. To give us a chance to kind of think about what we've heard and maybe sprout some new ideas, we'll listen to this next song and then continue on with joys and concerns.
Let our hearts not be hardened. To those living on the margins, there is a room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Too long we have wandered, burdened and undone, but there is room at the table for everyone. Let us sing the new world in. This is how it all begins. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. Let our hearts not be hardened. To those living on the margins, there is room at the table for everyone. This is how we gather